What's going on, everyone? I'm Encore. This is Tomorrow Never Comes. And today's video is something that I ran across just scrolling through LinkedIn, doing the usual thing that you do on social media. But this one really struck true because when you sit down and think about it, maybe you've used these terms interchangeably, right? Now, at the end of the day, certain things are semantics, but there is sometimes a clear difference. And what am I talking about? So when do you use the term crypto versus blockchain versus Web3, right? Those are the three big umbrella terminologies that are kind of thrown around there now and used interchangeably. And full transparency, sometimes even I've done that. So it's really interesting to read, and I wanted to share the post with you. So Anthony Day, I don't know who Anthony Day is, but someone in my network liked this particular post, which brought it to my attention. And it's so interesting that he says that 90% of people won't get this important distinction about blockchain, crypto, and Web3. And so he mentions this diagram. So there's Web3, there's blockchain, there's crypto, and they are each their own category with certain overlaps in between. And he goes on to say, hold on, let me see if I can get it more. Okay. So he kind of goes through what his definitions are, or at least his perception of what these three things mean. And so his thing was Web3 is a vision, a set of principles outlining a more decentralized internet where the individual has more control over their own data and governance is more open and transparent. And then he goes on to say it's technically possible to enable Web3 principles without blockchain. And that's very interesting because a lot of times those of us in the crypto space usually associate any Web3 type capabilities, whether they be technical or fundamental or ideal, in terms of principles, we kind of think of it more of it from a decentralized perspective that requires some sort of blockchain involvement. But when you sit and think about it, I mean, technically it is possible, right? I mean, you could get a Facebook, you could get any other LinkedIn platform that will allow you to share your data in some form, however you so choose, and get paid. Now, that's not realistic. I mean, the data is the lifeblood of all these platforms. That's what you're able to monetize. That's what advertisers pay for. And that's what they use to then get us to buy what they're selling. So that lifeblood is something that's not going to be released freely on its own. But it is technically possible. You could have a third, you can have a new project come out now that says you get to own your data and it doesn't have to be on the blockchain. So technically that is true. He goes on to state that a blockchain, what is it? It's a decentralized data platform secured by a global network of validators that may or may not allow users to interact with decentralized applications, smart contracts, so decentralized apps, right? dApps as well. And so, yeah, that's fair. And that's kind of why the Web3 and blockchain tend to go hand to hand, at least in my mind. And so just to go back again, so Web 2.0 is where platforms control your data. They own it. Right? You share things to them, they decide what they're going to do with it, and then Web3 is we get to decide what we want to do with our data, who we share it with, and do we want to monetize it, and if we do, we would get that revenue. So there's a big distinction between Web2 and Web3. So then he goes on to say cryptocurrencies, digital tokens that can be issued, uniquely identified, transferred, and in some cases burned, all secured via cryptographic algorithms. Okay, so that's pretty wordy, and if you're not in the space, probably like, I don't know really what that means, besides them being digital tokens. So the simplest way for me, and he goes on and he said you could do Web3 and blockchain and a couple of combinations there, right? But the easiest way to think about cryptocurrencies that I've come across is you've got blockchain, which is the underlying technology, and then you've got cryptocurrencies, which are the incentive on those blockchains. So there's got to be a mechanism, some kind of tangible reward for using the blockchain, that's the cryptocurrency. Okay, so again, the blockchain itself is the technology. So that's the base layer. But why would you use it? What are you going to do with it? So there's got to be some sort of incentive mechanism behind that. And that's how I view the cryptocurrency on top of that, right? So if we look at, just Bitcoin itself, right? You got the Bitcoin network, and all with Bitcoin's always the outlier, but I love picking it anyway. And so what is it trying to do? Is trying to give you financial freedom. You get to move your financial assets. It doesn't get hacked. All those kinds of things. But there needs to be a currency on top of that can facilitate that level of value. And so that's where that comes into play. So, ETH is similar. You're going to use the Ethereum platform. But in order to use the Ethereum platform, you need a currency on top to grease the wheels and get things moving on the platform. So you get ETH. So that's kind of how I look at those things. And he'll go on to say a couple of combinations that I'm not really going to get into, but Web3 and blockchain work, blockchain and crypto work, Web3 and crypto work. So, it's very interesting, his take on this. Definitely give it a look. I'll put the link in the description just for this post alone. And I thought it was fascinating that it's definitely something that needs to be discussed, or at least, thought of for all of us. Really, is when people are saying Web3, what does it mean? When people are saying blockchain, what does it mean? And when we're saying crypto, what does it mean? And they don't necessarily mean the same thing, but we tend to use them interchangeably, and they don't always work. So, look, I would love to hear what you guys think. What are your impressions? Do you think all these things work together? Are there only certain combinations that work or make sense? Or do they not work at all? They each their own. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. But give it a thought. I thought it was a great thought experiment. And I would love to hear what you guys have to say. So just remember, tomorrow never comes. Take action. Invest in yourself today. And I'll see you guys in the next video.